Oh, it says we're live. Mike, we must be live.
I feel alive
You
here,
feel live?
here in the COVID bunker. Yeah, this
I
place
like
where
that
I
you're.
am. This used to be.
Uh-huh.
There was a drum set here,
Uh-huh.
and I have these curtains around here that are actually carpet pads from underneath runners.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to try and dampen the sound, and it never really worked that well for a drum set, but it seems to work a lot better for doing this.
So you
So
were prepared for COVID.
no, I was prepared to hang curtains around me again and isolate myself in my basement. It's no, I wasn't prepared for COVID.
I don't know who was, although we keep saying our CTO really did a nice job planning for a pandemic or
Hmm.
earthquake or something, since we were
Hmm.
able to go to remote work.
Just like that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a company be able to do something that
Yeah.
fast. So
Well,
nice
Mike
job to
Mike
him.
was prescient planning for that. Yeah.
Well, since he doesn't watch these, that's good because we don't want to say anything that makes him feel good today, because that's just not how we roll.
No, it's not.
Um,
It's not our culture.
Time seems to move differently these days, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like the before times, is it?
No, and from what we're reading and discussing, and so we started an incident response team when COVID started,
Hmm.
and that's going to go on for a while. We've been
We have
talking
done it
about it.
105 times. We have
Mhm.
met an incident response team 105 times.
And I have to tell everybody I'm headed to a conference here in 2 weeks, and I'm a little worried about it. But if anybody else is going to the American Hospital Association conference, the irony of going to a hospital association conference during Omicron, it does not escape me. But let me know if you're going. Anyway, people's idea of how work and life intersect is very different now.
Hmm.
And you actually talked about that in a podcast this week.
I did. And in fact, I think that was one of the better chats I've had.
Hmm.
That was with Anna Delaney from ISMG, who
Hmm.
I got to say is an extremely focused interviewer. She
Oh,
is really sharp. And I think the podcast came out in GovInfo Security.
yeah, I'll put the info in the chat
Okay.
here.
Yeah,
Hmm.
we talked about how the Great Resignation, combined with the fluidity, the mobility that cybersecurity professionals already have,
Hmm.
is tending to exacerbate security problems right at the time when the threats are at an all-time high. So, I think it's worth listening to, and I say that because I listened to it afterward, and I
You
sounded,
listen to yourself.
yes, smarter than I think I really am. So it's a good
Hmm.
one.
Hmm. Hmm. And I put the link in the chat there. Um, I don't know about how smart you are. We'll have to measure that somehow. By the way, speaking of how smart you are, you, Mr. Hamilton, will be joined by
Mhm,
Raylene Gagnon from Manpower Group later today.
mhm.
They're a big and great recruiting and staffing firm, and we're going to talk about the number one problem in cybersecurity, which is people.
People.
It's not ransomware; it's people. And I'm going to throw the link into the chat there. It's at 11 a.m. Pacific today, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. So to be clear, this means we're going to juxtapose my conjecture and hyperbole with Raylene's actual data. Is that right? That sounds cool, if somewhat intimidating.
Um, yeah, everybody should just come watch to see how smart she is, and then to see what you have to say about it. Um, so we should get to the week of news because it's been another week. Russian gang arrested, Ukrainian websites hacked by Russians, Microsoft found destructive malware ready to run in Ukrainian government networks. And, besides all of the, 100,000 troops on the border. And then on the other hand, FBI and EU police took down a VPN service used by criminals. I mean, does that mean we're making some kind of progress with criminals at the same time that we're actually looking at infrastructure disruption, coming our way? A lot going
Yeah.
on, Mike.
So yeah, just a quick note about the arrests. So
Mhm.
the R Evil gang was arrested by the Russian government, and if you read carefully, what you will see is that they were thrown in jail for 2 months.
Mhm.
They recovered $600,000 in ill-gotten gains and something like 20 luxury vehicles. Okay,
Mhm.
for a gang that has stole billions of dollars, that doesn't sound like that much of a win to me. And I've read and I agree with, this is a diplomatic effort more than anything else. It is providing some leverage to Putin, saying we can take care of this problem or not. And I think this has everything to do with, like you say, the diplomatic military
Mhm.
problems we're having with Russia on the border of Ukraine right now. So yeah, crazy week in cyber war. I think the bigger news really along these lines is the messaging coming out of the federal government. Biden put out a national security memorandum, right, an NSM, that says national security systems should use the same controls that are used by federal civilian networks. Okay, the way I read that is the push to use market forces to get federal contractors to show their controls is going to apply to all the defense networks. So, DoD, get your own self ready for CMMC compliance. Okay. More seriously, the federal government is also calling out a bigger role for the NSA in the fight against state-sanctioned crime.
Yeah, I also read the FBI put out a statement saying, sometimes they want to prosecute and sometimes it's better to hand it off to Cybercom. I mean, do you
Mhm.
think those messages have an audience?
Yeah.
Is the
Yes.
audience amassing troops on the border of Ukraine?
Yeah. The audience's name is Vlad. Um, and speaking of Russians hiding behind ransomware, the volume is really going up on pronouncements from the government that are warning about nation state actions against critical infrastructure that are meant to look like ransomware.
Mhm.
You can't make it any plainer than that. But an interesting thing happened in lawsuit land this week along these same lines. So Merck won a $1.4 billion win against their insurance company, which was not going to cover the damage done by the NotPetya attack a few years ago. Remember that, right? All the
Mhm.
collateral damage, right? Merck, Maersk, the shipper, everybody. Um, the language that the judge used was that Merck's insurers can't claim the war exclusion because its language is meant to apply to armed conflict.
Mhm.
Okay, so kind of sanding off the edges there. They didn't put Merck on notice that cyber attacks wouldn't be covered. So you can bet that right now the insurance industry is preparing statements saying that cyber attacks won't be covered. They just saw what happened too.
Uh, we've been helping some customers deal with cyber insurance, and that just
Hmm.
makes it murkier. Bad news for the insurance industry and bad news for the private sector.
Hmm.
And anybody who has insurance, the combination of insurance companies now drafting that exclusion, along with the threat of exactly that happening,
Hmm.
means business risk has spiked way up.
Yep.
Um, Although I did come across a company this week that does not pay, that they don't care about risk. They're doing things differently. Risk is not what they talk about. So just one thing.
Good
There
luck
was
with that.
another lawsuit completed this week with Excellion,
Oh yeah.
the file transfer product that was hacked 18 months ago.
Hmm.
Did that became a class action, right?
Yeah, it was. And Excellion settled for 8 million, 8.1 million, something like that. The suit was brought by a bunch of healthcare organizations, Beaumont Health, Trinity Health, Kroger Health, bunch of others. Excellion got away without having to admit that their security is crappy. And so this is right, when you settle, you can keep your mouth shut. Well, this is I think this is similar to the Blackbaud incident, right, where Blackbaud was sued because their security was the cause of records theft, and those records belonged to their customers in health and philanthropy
And
and
that
other
was
things. Right?
massive. That was
It
that
was
was
massive,
that
right?
was massive.
But because all the health companies had to report data breaches, right? They lost our records, but we have to report it, right? They came after Blackbaud. So I think that one's still going on, but the 21st century threat of being used to attack your customers is continuing to be a widely used tactic. So don't be that third party.
Ah. All right, privacy and surveillance.
Mm, mhm,
Stories this week about Israel using the NSO Pegasus software to hack phones of its own citizens,
yeah.
including those not suspected of any crimes. I don't think any country is now immune from, being able to survey, that idea that you could surveil anyone's phones, and you're a position like Israel where, you're under a constant threat. But I mean, every country thinks they're under a constant threat.
Mhm.
So I mean, this lure of being able to surveil anyone is quite it's quite the lure. It's a bad trend though, Mike.
Yeah, it's very
And
attractive for these governments, yeah.
you know, didn't you say a few weeks back that the NSO group is selling off the Pegasus product and the US might buy it? Like,
Mhm.
this is bad, right?
Well, I guess it depends on how out of control our government is, how much of a target you are and how well you protect your own communications. Remember, right now, the January 6th committee is talking about the fact that certain individuals relevant to the event were communicating over Signal, but they'll never get the content of those messages. Okay, unless the device used for communicating is completely owned. So if you think you're a target, use a burner phone, use Signal, use Tor, use Proton Mail. You're actually privacy wise in pretty good shape from the government today,
Sure.
at least, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the juxtaposition, right? Like some of those things you wish could be public. Like if anyway,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, privacy wise doesn't make me feel any more comfortable.
Yeah. Well, one more thing I'll call out in privacy. So Congress is talking about, and this is land on your doorstep. Congress is talking about banning surveillance advertising, which is the collection of and hoarding of personal data and online activity specifically for the purpose of targeting ads.
Yeah, I mean, in my marketing group, there's been a lot of talk about this.
Hmm.
I don't know that that will go anywhere. There's a lot of money in advertising, and one of the things that it would prevent is personalization for people. But I say that speaking as a marketing guy, so I know people, think differently, and we certainly have some very large companies we care about that run on ads.
Hmm. Well, the world runs on consumption, mainly by Americans, frankly. Buy plastic made in China and then send it to the landfill, folks. That's what keeps the global economy going. And yes, that is driven by the relentless push to characterize every person based on their network activity and hang ads in front of them, thinking, they have a higher likelihood of buying. More seriously, though, you're right about the power of the lobby, right? There is going to be pushback, and we're going to have to watch and see where this goes. Everyone's tired of creepy tracking, but we're capitalists, and that's the way we
Well,
are.
and we like free stuff. Like you want Gmail to be free, you're paying for
True.
Gmail by ads. You want Facebook to be free, you're paying a
Well, how
different
about an
way.
option? How about I pay instead of being tracked?
Yeah.
I think that's a fair trade.
I'm glad that you think so. One one more thing I think is worth mentioning. Ransomware, the tally's in more than 2,300 local government schools, healthcare providers hit by
Hmm.
ransomware in 2021.
Hmm.
I mean, I knew it was a lot, but 2,300?
Yeah. Well, and these are organizations that are being attacked preferentially for the same reason that they're our key markets. They're critical, they're underserved, and they're poorly protected. And that's the recipe for targeting right there. That's why we designed our mission to work with sectors of the economy that are critical at the scale that we live our lives. And it's never been more clear that our focus is exactly the right one, because now you see exactly what they're going after, right? It's not, I mean, yeah, banks are widely attacked, and
Mhm.
guess what? There's all kinds of controls in place and there's all kinds of backup there. So you're not really going to lose money up to a certain amount, right? But, a hospital gets knocked down, whole different impact profile there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm there are a couple of things I'm working on right now. One of them is our healthcare breach report, and
Hmm.
we're finishing up the data and finishing up the writing now. But I'll give the teaser that it ain't going down.
Mm.
Some things are flattening, which is interesting, but it ain't going down. Hey, threats and vulnerabilities. What do you got? We're running out of time here.
Okay, all right. So let's see. Multi-factor authentication can be bypassed with box accounts using stolen credentials with no access to the victim's phone. Interesting. Microsoft backed out a patch that has been causing Windows servers to reboot and some services to stop working. DHL is now the most emulated brand used in phishing, which tells you that people really have shifted to having everything delivered. You know, you would think that the season for lots of package delivery is over, right? That was the holidays, but you know, criminals know how to target their market. There's
No, nobody would think that. I mean,
no,
it's funny. I know. I mean, I have a friend who, since March 2020, has not been to the grocery store once. Orders everything. I mean,
right.
everything is delivered.
Right.
Everything.
Criminals know that this is what is going on. So if they're going to pick a brand to emulate, it's going to be one that's, you know, in wide use. Um, this is an important one. There's a flaw in biometric authentication devices from several manufacturers that are used in a lot of banks, hospitals, and stuff. The CVSS score is 9.1, and it can be used to unlock doors, run commands, do all kinds of stuff. It's pretty bad. Get in front of that. And like I said, it's multiple manufacturers. There's a cyber espionage campaign that's targeting renewable energy companies. This is a concerted effort to steal authentication credentials. So we're running out of time. There's a few. There are more in the news blast every day, and those are always the last few in the list.
Yeah, and if you don't get the news blast, go to our homepage, criticalinsight.com, scroll down to where you see Mike's face, and then put your email address in there, and you'll get Mike's email every day. Okay. At the end of all of these, we have a kicker, which is the story that makes everybody smile at the end. You generally fail to make everybody smile. How
I'll
are you
fail
going to
today
do
too.
today? Oh, good.
Okay, well, you know, it's all this nonsense going on with cryptocurrency and this stuff popping up out of nowhere, and then everybody having their money stolen. You know, it just happens over and over and over. So there's one called multi-chain. It's a service that allows cryptocurrency owners to swap tokens between blockchains. Okay, so a publicly announced flaw was immediately swarmed by hacking thieves, and now it looks like the crypto owners have been relentlessly hacked. One criminal stole, you know, about $1.5 million, and another one offered to return 80% of what he or she stole, keeping 20% as a tip for saving your money. So, you know, you got to wonder, does that person, that hacker, have a certified ethical hacker
Oh, yeah, I'm
certification?
sure they do.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
CEH all the way. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give you
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
80% of your money because I'm CEH. Yeah.
Yeah, they probably designed their certificate in Photoshop. All right, you know what? You did not make anybody smile, so I will take that on. So, did you see the story in Missouri this week where everybody got a notification of an alert from it was at State Patrol? Yeah, from State Patrol, I think,
Mm-mm.
that the Joker was on the loose in
No,
Gotham.
no.
And to watch
How did
out.
I miss that?
And it even had Joker's license plate, which is "You kid me,"
Oh my God.
and everyone was like, "Oh my god, they've been hacked, and the hacker's really funny." No, it was just their test. It was a test that they didn't mean to send out, but they did. So, in any event,
Yeah, and you know it's a test because Gotham is not in Missouri.
oh, that's a good point.
Mm,
Hey, so did you see that thing you did where you smiled and laughed?
yeah,
That's how that works.
that's the reaction you're supposed to elicit from those things.
Yeah, when you say something funny and people laugh, like that's how that works. There's a whole Jerry Seinfeld book about that.
Listen, you can say something ironic and have people laugh too. Okay, it's not limited to just humor.
That's true. That's true. Even though most people define irony incorrectly. All right, we'll see you at the panel later today.
Yep.
And listen to Mike's podcast.
Mhm.
And there was something else I wanted to tell people.
Oh, we
Can't
did
remember.
Mike and Jeremy did a
Oh yeah,
webinar,
we had a great
right?
webinar earlier this week. And I thought, God, there was something else I want to tell people. Oh well, guess what? You'll have to tune in next week when I remember what I was going to tell you all. All right,
Good deal.
everybody. See you at the panel later today. Bye bye.
All right, bye.